would start trying to, manipulate the knobs and things on that TARDIS, I have to say, I'm reminded some of the images that I've seen some of that fan fiction. I sort of almost want to get out a sort of, disinfectant spray. Give it a wipe down. Yes. Oh dear. Dr. Blue.
Dr. Blue.
You're not supposed to be shown that stuff.
Talk to Graham Norton, I don't know.
All right, let's keep it moving over here.
Hi. I have a question for David as well. How did you feel about redoing the exact same show in America for Broadchurch? And would you have replayed the Doctor with a thick American accent if you had been offered it? But I actually want to know how this happened.
Which bit? What happened? What?
The Broadchurch being redone in America, but exactly the same with you with an American accent. I don't understand. Can you explain how that happened and how you felt about that?
Well, yes, the idea was that Broadchurch had been a bit of a hit in the UK, and it had been shown over here on BBC America, which people had received it very warmly, but like 0.2% of the population of America had seen it. I'm sorry, I said over here. I mean in the US, and so Fox thought, well, that was a big hit. Let's do it again. Don't change anything. But I think maybe the world of television, maybe those days are gone. I think now, because TV is such an international thing, that a show that's a hit in one country, it kind of makes its way around the world. So that was maybe an idea that had slightly missed its moment, actually, because it probably should have been a slightly different show. Maybe, but that's with the benefit of hindsight. At the time, we just wanted to tell that story to people who hadn't been told it yet, and that meant moving it to a US setting because it should feel accessible. That was why. It just felt like a story that was worth telling again. And I was asked to do it, and I thought, yeah, that sounds like a laugh.
Did it feel strange to do the same show in a totally different country?
I mean, yes and no. The thing is, if you do a play, you tell the same story 8 times a week. So to tell the same story one more time with lots of different people doing it, it didn't feel particularly unusual as a sort of acting challenge. And you think, well, at least I know the scripts are going to be great because they were great the first time.
Were they exactly the same?
They weren't exactly the same, but they were similar. Yeah, the story it had a different ending.
Yeah.
But most people had given up on it by the time they got to the final.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How did you handle the accent? I think all of you have done American or North American accents, and do you get coached?
Yeah, there are people that coach you, but we get flooded with it, don't we? We grow up with American shows and American movies, so it's kind of in there somewhere, I guess.
Thank you. Let's switch to American.
No.
Good answer.
Bravo!
Question from the Doctor.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Don't worry, my question is not so hard. So I want to know from all of you, what has been your funniest moment on set of Doctor Who?
Funniest moment on set.
It's really hard.
My funniest moment, I've told this, so if you've watched this on any of these conversations on YouTube, you've probably heard it, but my funniest moment was the first moment that River encounters Matt Smith's Doctor Who. And I was flown on a wire through outer space in the studio, which was so exciting, marvellous. And Matt Smith opened the doors of the TARDIS to allow me to fly in, and I flew straight into his arms and kneed him in the bollocks. And we landed on the floor, and I was laughing, and I thought he was laughing, but actually he wasn't. So that was very funny for me. Fabulous. And then I had to, on another episode, I had to smack him across the face. And we had to do that multiple times. And I thought that was very funny too. But he didn't laugh either.
Do you have one?
Do you know, I remember one time when we were in absolute fits, and it wasn't even over something that had happened. It was like delirium, because it was 4 o'clock in the morning, I think, and it was something completely inane. But I think you just had to say the word witchcraft, looking at me with some intensity, and that couldn't say it, I couldn't hear it, I couldn't look at you when you had to say it, and we had to do it over and over again. And that sticks in my mind. You just go, just say the bloody word. Let's just get it. But we couldn't get through it. So sometimes it's something in particular, sometimes it's just...
I do remember when I was done up like a very old man.
Yes.
And I had to whisper things in your ear. I remember quite enjoying trying to think of the most disgusting thing. And being a real dirty old man. And of course your face was on camera and mine was buried in your hair, so I could get away with it. Do an old man a favour. I seem to remember things like that.
Yeah, that's true. And that's
That
true.
was quite funny.
Do you remember when I whispered into your ear?
Yes.
I was supposed to whisper your name.
Yes.
And you were on camera and I was off camera.
Yeah.
And I went, Shaniqua.
Did you go?
Because that is his name, really.
But it turns out that Chris Chibnall's going to make that the Doctor's name, so it all comes round. Yeah, it is always it's funny things that sort of set you off, and then the one I remember, we did episode called "The Idiot's Lantern" when Rose came in with no face, and it's meant to be, and it is a very sort of chilling, rather awful moment when the Doctor sees that Rose has been robbed of her identity. But of course, what you actually get on set is Billy Piper with crosses all over her face where they put them so that they will CGI her face off later. So I think they took a sack off her head. So every time they do this, of course, I'd have to be terribly moved. They take a sack off her head, her hair's all over her face. She's got these crosses all over her face. And Billy's standing there going, that was one of the longest afternoons we had. Yeah.
I've heard a deck of cards can be a big distraction on set. Is that true?
Yes.
Oh, that was our episode, wasn't it?
No, that exactly. Well, my episode. That's not all I thought you ever did. Play cards. Do you remember? It was like, oh, do we have to go and act? We were in the middle of a card game.
Yeah.
That's all you ever did. You
joined in. Stop it.
I joined in.
Pretending.
But then after cards, when we were on actually waiting to shoot, we do that game where we, that pop song game, where somebody says the name of a pop singer or a group, and the last letter or something that it ends with, the next person has to say the one that begins with. Do you know what I mean?
Like if I say,
Yeah.
if you said Beatles, ends with an S, I'd say Stevie Wonder.
Yes, exactly. And then I'd say, exactly, Ramones, and then I'd go,
Now we've started. Let's go around the room.
Don't you remember? We did that.
I remember the cards.
Oh my God, we did it for hours and
We
hours and
never
hours.
played that.
I know that's because we were in Swansea for 2 whole weeks in one location, which never ever happened. So because we would move around so much.
Yes.
But because the library episode was all in one place and we were all away from Cardiff, and it was like we were at at camp.
It was, and we were. This is how bored we were. We longed for
Not
pub
bored.
quiz nights. Do you remember?
We went to pub quiz
We did pub
nights.
quiz
Yeah.
nights. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
actually. I think we won, didn't we? Once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did.
Thank you.
Let's go over here.
So my question is initially for David, but I would love to hear what Freema and Alex have to say about it as well. Of all of the alien races the 10th Doctor has met and visited, which did you personally find had the most interesting story and why?
Oh, very good. Very good question. Very good question. The one that immediately springs to mind is the Ood, I think, because because they were they were sort of the villains of the piece because of what had happened to them, but actually they weren't, and they're extraordinary. And then later on we find out everything about their society and the fact that they were these creatures that were born with brains in their hands, and it was a whole sort of world. They weren't the villains. They were a whole society with an interesting backstory that you got more and more interesting the more you found out about them. So I'll go with them.
They're my favorite too.
You are right.
I couldn't think of anything, and then that just made me think of the pigmen.
Oh yes.
Do you remember the pigmen?
Yes.
And it was just seeing them as these villains, and then realising that they were just people who had been taken and put under these circumstances and enslaved, and then there was the puppet masters who were demons. Real social commentary, and I think that's what Doctor Who does do so exquisitely well. It just has all of this socio-political commentary going on, as well as wonderful relationships, and you can just take so many different things from it. But I like that kind of spin on them.
I haven't. Well, you
Slow
haven't. You haven't seen the worlds or the species that I've met yet. So I can't tell you because that would be a spoiler.
Well, great. We'll take a question. Oh, hello, Doctor.
Minnie.
That's Devon.
Oh, thank you for recognizing me. So I have different questions for all three of you. So for Freema, what is your favorite scene that you've taped? Take your time.
Yes. Take it all.
He's a moderator in the making.
I think it is the scene in the gloop when Martha's cloned and has to come out, because I never really did any stunty stuff, and so I was really looking forward to that actually, because I'd seen you being strung up and pulled along and snapped back and all sorts, and I was never really doing any of that side of it, and suddenly they were like, oh, so there's this episode and you have to submerge into some gloop and come out as the clone. So I watched Paul, or was it Rory then? It was Paul maybe doing it. I can't remember. But he had like a full face of prosthetic covering over him, so he couldn't, tiny little holes cut out for him to breathe. So he had that on, which is claustrophobic enough, and then he was submerged into the bath of gloop as well. Like panic attack I would have had, and then so he has to come up as the first clone, and then Martha does it. So I watched him do it. I did ask if they were going to change the gloop after he'd just been in it, but no, same bath of gloop. I'm joking. So then they were like, just go under, and then you won't be able to hear us say action. You'll just hear a tap on the side of the bath. So then at that point you need to come up. So I went under, and it is just like. And it's so thick and it's everywhere, and then I just felt the tap, and I had my eyes closed, so as I was coming up I thought I had broken the top before I had, so I breathed, and it shot up my nose and down my throat, and if you watch that scene I think you can see my throat going, and it's like, because I thought if I cough I'm going to have to do it again, and I don't want to do it again. I just want to stop now. So I just held, someone say cut, boom, and then it was shot out. And was done. done. One take. That's my favourite scene. Sorry, long answer.
Okay, so David.
Yes.
So what if you were to relive any scene of any previous Doctor? Which would it be? Although I think I know your answer is going to be the 5th Doctor because of family circumstances.
He's hilarious. I love him.
Can I go for one that's after me rather than before me?
Your choice.
Thanks. The thing that I was really jealous of was when Matt got to hang from the TARDIS in Trafalgar Square for the 50th anniversary episode, and because he said, "Oh, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to hang from the TARDIS." I went, "Yeah, but you won't really hang from the TARDIS." He went, "No, I'm really going to hang from the TARDIS," and he went right, because he got clipped in and went right up in the middle of Trafalgar Square, hanging from the TARDIS in the middle of London. I was very jealous. I'd have liked to do that.
Finally, for you, Alex. So this is like a little inside thing.
Oh, just between me and you.
No, just between like everyone at Doctor Who.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
When you were reading the script for like the wedding of River Song.
The husband.
Yeah, I like that episode too.
Oh, the wedding of River Song.
I think so, yeah. Were you as confused about the timeline as we were when we first read it? Because I was totally confused about that.
Well, I wasn't confused because I felt like, well, we're married now, we've done it, you know, we've tied our wrists, we're married. But then I got confused later when Stephen Moffat came up to me and he said, well, technically you married a tesselector. So I'm like, no, that's not good enough, no, I married the Doctor, I'm the Doctor's wife! So to be perfectly honest, I don't know whether he is my husband or not.
He was inside it, so yes.
Yes. But yes, it's confusing. All you can do is you just do it. You just act. And you just believe and trust that Stephen Moffat knows what the hell he's talking about.
Well, as you said, tesselector or not.
Tesselector or not, we consummated the marriage.
Yes. You married a doctor! And that is good enough in itself.
Thank you, Devon.
Devon, when Stephen Colbert is next on holiday, your interview technique rocks.
Exactly.
All right, we've got about 5 minutes left, and I did apologize we wouldn't be able to get through everybody, but we're going to have a great time still. So let's try to go quick questions, and we'll get through them.
Hi, first off, I think you are all amazing. The question I have was originally meant for David, but I'd kind of like to hear all of you answer it. So the first thing that I actually saw you in, David, was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. For all of 5 minutes. But then when I started watching Doctor Who, I realized, oh, that's Barty Crouch Jr., the crazy Death Eater. So what I really wanted to know is, what do you prefer, playing the hero or the villain?
Depends. It depends on the script, really. You know, and again, I don't think you approach any character thinking it's a hero or it's a villain. No, I mean, obviously you kind of know, but it sort of depends on what that character does and what, you know. I've been very lucky. I've played some great fun heroes and some great fun villains, and hopefully everything in between as well. And what's interesting is the sort of the shades of grey, really. I think that's where characters really come to life. You know, I think what's interesting about the Doctor is when he goes to some quite dark places. You know, that's what makes the sort of the kind of the crazy anarchy all the more interesting. That it's sort of cloaked in shadow sometimes. And with someone like Kilgrave, I think you're dressed as Jessica Jones there. Someone like Kilgrave, what's interesting is the vulnerability and the fact that, you know, it's all to do with the way he was treated by his parents, and so I think you try not to categorize any character too much so that they can live as real a life as you can give them, I suppose, which is a bit of a way of not really answering your question. But that's all you're going to get. Thanks.
For the two of you, what's more fun, the hero or the villain?
I think David's absolutely right, and I'm sure you'd agree. It's about the script, and it's about when you get a script and you read the character that they're offering you, or that they're interested in you for. If you have a connection, that's all it takes. It's just that immediate instinctive connection or feeling for a character, whether they're a hero or a villain. It doesn't really matter. It's just that thing, and I don't really think it's even anything that one can sort of really put a finger on. It's just instinct, I'd say.
Yeah, good. Yeah. It just went whoop, straight out of my head then. Although, another point, when I was just starting Doctor Who and I was looking at your back catalogue and going, I'll just have a look at some of the stuff David's done, and the first thing I saw you in was Secret Smile. Have you seen that?
He was a villain.
He was a pure villain. So it's interesting.
I feel like my argument, doesn't it?
Yeah, no. But I do feel like what Alex was just saying about the connection. You're looking for a connection with the character, because when people ask you, do you identify with that character you're playing with? I think you don't always have to, but you have to find a connection in order to tell that story. But I think if you always were looking to identify with them, then no one would ever play rapists or serial killers or anybody, because you wouldn't want to go there to connect with them, but to identify you. But you have to find that connection in order to tell the story.
Yeah, I was offered a job. It was on some sort of procedural show in the States, and I had just given birth to my daughter. And the character that I was being offered, and it was a very interesting and very politically sort of timely storyline, really. But the character that I was being offered was the headmistress of a school who actually was a child abuser, and I couldn't do it. I had to turn it down because I just being a mother, it was somewhere that I could not go, and so I said no. And I think that sometimes I just did not, certainly didn't connect with that, but some things just don't feel right for you. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm sure we could do this all night, and I speak for everybody when I say I don't want to go. I had to do it. But I'm being told from the backstage we have reached our time. This was amazing. I don't know about you guys, but this was amazing. I had so much fun.